And so in general, I think the result proves without headguard is absolutely, I think, proof is safe. And but we'll continue for the future competitions. And also, second thing is we're using the 10-point mark system.
Yeah.
And this is the judges using an overall performance of the boxers and they give the score. And we have more than 440 bouts.
Okay.
And the end of that, only one protest.
That's very good.
And even that protest was not accepted by the jury because that was a protest to the referee and not to the judges. So I think the end of that was one protest, but that protest was not accepted by the jury.
So that was a good thing. I like the fact that there are no head guards. It looked fantastic. But some of the boxers, Dr. Wu, complained that if you have 5 contests in 10 days, it's hard without the head guards. Did you hear people saying that to you? And will you look at that perhaps?
Oh, yes, we have the medical commission.
Yes.
Closely watch.
Good.
I think wearing the headguard and or without headguard, basically for the boxer's performance, I don't think affect any of the boxers' performance on that.
Okay.
Because I think the boxers. I heard many boxers come to say to me, "Finally, President, we removed the headguard. We're so happy to compete without headguard because the visibility." The comfortable for the boxers in the competition.
Correct.
So that's why they are extremely happy.
I spoke to some that were very happy, and I spoke to others that said they liked boxing without the head guards, but that they thought it was hard to box 5 times. And Dr. Wu, I understand what you're saying about the safety, and I agree with you, but it did seem to me that there were more cut eyes and cuts than normal. Was that the case?
Yes, even less.
Even less?
Even cut is less than wearing the headguard. And so we have the semi-final. That is the longest competition day.
Yes.
The whole day, only one superficial cut.
Wow.
Only.
Well, in that case, Dr. Wu, it was a great spectacle, but more than that, it looked fantastic. Can I ask you this, Dr. Wu? As we go forward, the APB will start in next year?
Yes, I think most of the APB boxers, before they start, they all join the WSB competition.
Of course.
For the so the season will start from next month, November. So most of the APB boxers all joined the WSB now.
Yeah.
But we said, okay, continue the 4th season, and the end of the 4th season will be March next year.
Okay.
So after the March next year, then we start the APB, the ranking, the world ranking competition.
Dr. Wu, final question, just moving ahead. As we get ready for Rio, in 2016, it seems to me that a lot of the boxers in Rio will be boxers from the WSB and from the APB, but will there be boxers also from the European Championships, from the World Championships, from the Asian Championships, from the Pan Am Games? Will they still be there?
Of course, we have 250 quota for men.
Okay.
And the 150 of the quota for the AOB means from the amateur boxing.
Yep.
You call it amateur.
Yeah, of course.
But I think this is 150. Okay. The other 100 quota reserved for the APB and also WSB. So, in fact, the majority is still from the amateur boxing.
Well, Dr. Wu, that's fantastic because there's been lots of misinformation about that. Dr. Wu, can I say it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bunce. Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Barry, Dr. Wu there saying a couple of things that people were unaware of. The first being that the reason why the APB is not starting now and not starting early next year, it will start after the World Series of Boxing finishes, which makes sense. Lots of stories that it wasn't going to start and it was going to be postponed. He's just put that to bed. It's going to start after the WSB finishes.
And that's probably the only thing that makes sense about it, to me, to be honest. It's all a bit confusing.
Yeah, we'll discuss that when it comes out, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a...
And the other thing there he put to bed, lots of scary stories came out of Almaty last week at the Kazakhstan. Lots of on different newspapers around the world that were translated, or the Irish press. Kenny Egan I spoke to, that when it comes to the Olympics, where there'll be 250 men, the suggestion was that most of them, 80% of them, would come from the APB or the World Series of Boxing. Well, he's just killed that because he said 150 of them will come from normal amateur boxing tournaments, as we call it amateur, they don't call it amateur boxing, and the other 100, which is not 80%, is it? Not, you know, it's not even 30%, it's 30%, I suppose. That will be that will come from the APB and the WSB. So what that does is that gives more incentive for the kids to stay amateur. Because the story we'd heard was that only the winner from the World Amateur Championships and the winner from the Europeans and the winner from the Pan Ams would go to the Olympics.
Well, more importantly, it gives a kid now who's just starting to become that level where he might win an ABA title, for instance. It gives him the hope that he could gate crash the British Olympic squad and get in there. Otherwise, what would be the point?
Yeah, well,
if it's only going to have if 90% were going to be from APB or WSB, it's going to pretty much go, well, I might as well just turn pro, even, you know. So at least it gives these kids some sort of aspiration to think I can make that Olympics if I really put my foot.
And we know that Fred Evans, who didn't reach the medal stage in Almaty, and we know that that Andrew Selby, who reached Lee Selby, rather, excuse me. Andrew, sorry, excuse me, Andrew Selby, I'm confused. You said Lee earlier on to me, you confused me. That Andrew Selby did get to a medal stage, and that we know that they've signed, I think the correct term is, provisional contracts with the APB, so they will be there. Barry Jones, don't go anywhere, because you're not allowed to. You're strapped in. Now, odds were actually in 1984 at the Olympics in Los Angeles, and then they were in the 19 World Championships in Moscow, and the first Olympics where they were introduced, another weight division was introduced, the super heavyweight division. Before that, it had just been heavyweight division, which is sometimes a bit confusing. Now, the first ever Olympic super heavyweight champion was from Philadelphia, and his name was Tyrell Biggs.
My dad he never let me study the new fighters. Back then, it wasn't about money. It's about being the best.
I thought Tyrell was going to go all the way. I thought Tyrell was going to be champion of the world, heavyweight champion of the world.
Tyrell started disappearing. So I go knock on the door, and he opens up the door. And I just look at him. I said, oh, okay, I was just making sure you're all right. I said, man, I ain't feeling good.
It was maybe a combination. Chance to become the heavyweight champion of the world.
A heavyweight, a big gold medal. I still can't figure out that myself. Like, what happened to Tyrell Biggs?
Well, you know what did ever happen to Tyrell Biggs? Well, you know what? There's only one man I want to ask, and that's Tyrell Biggs, who's on the line. Now, Tyrell, welcome to Boxnation. Tyrell, first of all, can I ask you, what are you up to these days?
Oh, hey, how you doing? Well, I work over at a place called Shepherd Convention Center, and I help train some of the young future Olympic boxers, hopefully. It's about 2 or 3 young guys that are heading towards the Olympic Games for 2016. And I help train them and pretty much look out for the kids over here in the neighborhood.
Tyrell, are you at peace now? Because, you know, you won that gold medal, you turned professional, and then, you know, and I hate to say it, but, you know, you had to fight a lot of demons along the way on both sides of the ropes, Tyrell.
Yeah, that's true. But that's life, and I had to overcome my little problem with drugs and alcohol. I'm coming up on my 30-year anniversary of clean and sober.
Great.
And so things happen, but for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with what I was able to do and accomplish.
Tyrell, let me take you back to California, the summer of 1984, and you're in the Olympic Games. There's some good fighters in there, by the way. Looking at the lineup before you had your first bout, were you confident, Tyrell, hand on heart, that you could take that gold medal?
Oh, well, there was no question. Because of the competition here in the United States, just to make the Olympic team.
Good.
I had to defeat one fellow I had to defeat about 2 or 3 times. I believe his name was Craig Payne, and because the competition was so tough here in the United States. Once I beat those guys, then I knew I could take on anybody in the world, which is what I happened to do.
Now that was in many ways a great period for American heavyweights. I know it was 5 or 6 years after Muhammad Ali, Frazier and Foreman, but there were a lot of good heavyweights. And when you turned pro, you were in the middle of a lot of very good American heavyweights, and obviously Lennox from Canada. But if I look at the heavyweight scene now, Tyrell, what's gone wrong with the American heavyweight scene right now?
Well, you know what? Probably with the heavyweights now, maybe they're changing their interest into basketball and football now or something. I think a lot of the fighters are not really into the boxing now probably because of the other sports that they're participating in. Because
they were making so much money in those other sports. So Tyrell, when you're working with these fighters there in California, have you got an extra eye open looking for a guy to walk through the door who's about 6'2", 16 years of age, with a big heart just like you?
Oh well, of course. There's always that guy that comes into the gym.
Yeah. Tyrell, in your pro career, what was your highlight? What was your finest night as a professional boxer, Tyrell?
Well, I would probably have to say the fight with Jeff Sims.
Yeah, he was dangerous.
In the States, I think it was the second round. He tried to hit me with a right hand, and I moved out of the way, and he hit my collarbone and broke my collarbone. And Lou Duva and Georgie Benton was working my corner. When I went into the corner, I told George and them that I couldn't move my arm. And they said that the heck with that. Use your left hand and beat this guy with your left hand.
No way.
And eventually, and that's what I did. I won a 10-round decision, pretty much fight with just my left hand.
Lou Duva, great name. George Benton, an even bigger name, especially in the city you're from, Philadelphia. Well, if I've asked you about the good, Tyrell, what was the lowest point in your professional career?
That was a big letdown when I fought Tyson for the championship of the world. Of course, that would have to be the biggest letdown because I was right on the verge of becoming champion of the world.
Well,
and I fell short.
Well, people forget that was a great Tyson. He was 31 fights unbeaten, and you decided to go in there toe-to-toe, so no one could ever question your heart or desire. So, Tyrell, this film that's been made, when's it out? How can people watch it here in the UK?
Well, the film is going to probably be done in January, and we're trying to do they're having the Kickstart. To get it completed, and probably in January it should be ready to roll, and it happens to coincide with our 30-year anniversary of the '84 Olympics as well.
Tyrell, listen, before I let you go, there's 2 things. First of all, it's been a delight and a pleasure to talk to you, and can I also apologise? I know that because of some confusion this end, we had you waiting by your telephone for nearly 2 hours, and I'm so sorry about that. And if
no, that's not a problem. In this business, that always happens. It's not nothing new.
Tyrell, listen, and also if you could thank Claire as well, because I know she was involved. Tyrell, if you ever get to this country, I've got it on my show here. I have a former world champion called Barry Jones who's on my sofa. It's a lovely big white leather sofa. If you get here, the entire sofa is yours to stretch out on and have a good chat.
Okay, good. Good. I've been here a time or two, and it'd be a good thing to get back there again.
Oh, listen, Tyrell, that would be my pleasure. Tyrell Biggs, thanks very much indeed, Tyrell. Speak to you very soon.
Okay, man. Thank you.
See you later, Tyrell. You know what, Barry, when you look back on those American heavyweights from the 80s and the 90s, now he wasn't the one that got the world championship. Some of the guys that won world title belts were nowhere near as good as him. He had some demons inside and outside of the ring. I think that with a bit of luck, different luck, he could have been one of the best from that entire decade.
Well, as skill goes, he had it all, because people forget as an amateur, he was world champion as well as Olympic champion.
Absolutely.
So people say about the 84 Olympics, you know, where the Cubans weren't in it, but he won the world championship 2 years before that, so, you know, he cleaned up, and he was something else, wasn't he? And then, you know, he turned pro and he had a good career, but he came up against a Pete Tyson, a Pete Lewis, and a Pete Riddick Bowe, pretty much.
I know, exactly.
You know, like three of the...
Listen, even fought a Pete Gary Mason over here. That was a slugfest and a half.
Do you know what I mean? He just came up against some really good fighters in their prime, and that was it's all about timing, and he just didn't have very good timing.
It's all about timing. Barry Jones, fantastic. Tyrell Biggs. Now, on Saturday night and through the night, we did this fantastic Lennox Lewis signed box T-shirt competition. Over 1,000 people. Thank you very much. Thank you, very much. You deserve it. And the winner was, and I love this, I'm going to describe how it is. OK, Lennox Lewis is in front. OK, Foreman is cut over both eyes. OK, then in round 12, as Lennox is being pushed back, he's exhausted. Foreman finds the big right hand. It's bingo. Foreman KO late. I'm saying 1 second left. The winner of the T-shirt, Brian Kentman. Well done. That's right. He deserves that. Phew, I tell you what, Tyrell Biggs, Dr. Wu, we're putting out all the stops tonight. We'll have a break. See you in a minute. Oh, yes, thank you very much indeed. A bit later in the show, we'll be talking to Abel Sanchez about the preparations for one Gennady Golovkin, and he makes some rather revealing comments. Now, we're back at the Copper Box, OK, I think, on November the 30th. There's 73 fights on the bill. We're actually starting in about 2 days' time. It's going to be that kind of bill. It's going to be loads and loads. Now, two of the boys that will be on the bill haven't boxed on the same bill. I'm not sure if they've even boxed before, but they haven't boxed for a long time. OK, now they sell lots of tickets. They make lots of noise. And on my sofa, it looks like I've got triplets. It does, it really does, yeah, it really does. Please welcome to my sofa, Barry, Chris and Andreas Evangelou.
How you doing, all right?
Show Barry, show him. Show the third brother. Anyway, thanks for coming in, boys. You have boxed on the same night before, haven't you?
Yeah,
but not for a long while.
About 2 years, yeah, long time.
They talk together, it's great. Did you hear that, Barry?
I tell you what, we've become like twins.
You nudge me.
I could go home now, I'm happy. I've spoken to Tyrell Biggs, I've spoken to Dr. Wu, and I've had the Evangelou brothers talking in unison. I'm a happy boy. Light heavyweight, light welter, light welter?
Light welter.
Light welter. Now, you're both on that bill together.
Yep.
OK, what, do you know what you've got? What sort? We've got 6, 8 rounders. Do you know anything about it?
Shall I talk?
Yeah, go on.
We're both, nudge me, there we go. Basically, we're both doing 2 6-rounders.
OK.
Not each, but yeah, our debut for Frank Warren and Boxnation, ease us into the season. I haven't boxed since March. You know, I've recovered from hand surgery as well.
I saw you at that show.
I've got a few scars.
Was it serious?
It was, you know, I mean, you know, my doctor's one of the best in the country, Mr. Brian Cohen, who I owe so much to, you know, saved my career really twice. Basically, you know, now I'm punching full power now my right hand, and to be honest, no one really knows this. Is the first time I'm ever actually saying this because the camp kept it quiet. But I haven't had the right hand for 4 years. Really, that's why my left hook's
touching with it.
Yeah, and my left hook's the main punch. Yeah, and basically working with the amazing Don Charles now. You know, has been developing my right hand, and I'm putting people down.
And you're both working with Don now, yeah?
We're both working with Don.
I like that gym. I mean, Don's a friend of mine, so I would say that, but I do like the gym. And you know, there's quite a few fighters at the moment who are unattached. You know, guys like David Price and Nathan Cleverly, and they all seem to talk highly. You know, they've done visits around different gyms, and people like him, don't they?
No, it's a good atmosphere. So it's a winning atmosphere. That's what he wants. He says he's not going to train anyone who's got the winning mentality. Yeah. So everyone in there's a winner. Don Charles is a winner. We've got the European champion now with Chisora, so it's looking good,
And he's not afraid to have a few, not you two, because you're sensible boys, especially yours. I know why you're sensible, because your dad's so sensible and good at what he does. And we should have got. Is your dad here? We should have had him in, man. We should have had the right Reverend in. He's the top man. But they can't, you know.
The man. He gets enough attention, man.
I know he gets all the attention, and rightly so. He does all this.
No, he does.
Let me explain. Their father does all this fantastic work in Africa, building schools, building this, building that, but that's fantastic stuff. And you know, you have to ask him 5 times before he tells you, but he does all that stuff. That's why I mention it. That's why I know they're so good, because their dad's so good. Let's get back, Andres, to that. You both of you have had sort of frustrated careers, haven't you? Stop-start careers. Is that fair comment, Chris?
I think a lot of boxers do, and I think it's the ones that just really, you know, persevere, and that's my favourite word, to be honest.
That's the right word to use.
You know, through it's not an easy job, it's not an easy career, and it's one of the hardest sports in the world. And people really find where they are when they turn pro, because from amateur to pro, it's such a big jump, and they're 2 different sports in my eyes. You know, I have done both of them. And we've got through it. I think me and my brother through this summer, it's been a career changing summer for us, and we're in the right place. We've got all the boxes ticked, and we're at the bottom of golden ladder now, and it's only left to us to climb.
Yeah, the bottom line is you are near whatever that ladder is, and wherever that ladder is, fellas, you stick there for a moment. Earlier on, I reached out to speak to Abel Sanchez, who was at his Big Bear gym out there in California by Big Bear Lake. Now, I spoke to Abel, who's a great guy. I've known him for a while. And the first question I asked him was a bit cheeky of me, really. I said, have you got anything coming up in the next few days?
Well, I've got Gennady Golovkin fighting on the 2nd of November in New York City. I also have Mike Perez on the undercard and Joel Diaz Jr. We are headed towards New York tomorrow morning, so we're all ready to go and ready for fight night.
Now, with Golovkin, because that's what I was talking about there, you know, thinking about him. With Golovkin, here's a fighter. Did you realise just how special he was when you first started working with him?
Well, you know, you can never tell, but you knew that there was something special about him, not only with his punching power, but his intelligence and his amateur pedigree. So, yeah, there was a thought in my mind of how special he could be.
Now, this weekend, Curtis Stevens, he's a good talker, but perhaps not as good in the ring as his words are outside of the ring.
Well, it makes for a good promotion. It makes for exciting leading up to the fight. I hope that he does what he says he's going to do, and if he does, then we're going to be treated to a real good beginning of a fight anyway.
Now, I know from reading and talking to people that Gennady finds it difficult with the sparring. Some guys like the sparring, some don't. And I hear that Kovalev doesn't like sparring with him, doesn't like being with him in the gym.
No, I trained Kovalev for about 1.5 years, and I actually started training him because I thought I could use him for sparring.
Sure.
But it ended up that he had too much respect for Gennady in the ring, and was kind of fearful of sparring with him, so I stopped. I only sparred him like 3 or 4 times in that 1.5 years that I had him.
So it just wasn't worth it. Now, what about, I don't like to look past fights, but I guess I've got to. That's what I'm paid to do. Where would you like to see Golovkin go? There's lots of names being thrown out there. Carl Froch is out there, Sergio Martinez, and even Mayweather. What would you like, Abel?
Well, I would like for him to settle business at 161st, and if there's no more opportunities at 160, which there seems to be running out because people don't want to get in the ring with him, we'd love to fight Carl. I think it'd be a great fight for the fight fans. Their styles would mesh real well. As far as fighting Mayweather, I think that's Gennady's dream fight. So yeah, I hope that's in the future for us.
Would you have to change? I mean, would you expect, if you were given a call from Mayweather's people, would you expect to have to drop a few pounds, or would you hold fast at 160, Abel?
No, we said all along that we dropped Gennady down to 154 and fight for a 154-pound title. So I just would need the 8 weeks in advance to know that I need to drop him down, but he can make 154 comfortably.
In your heart of hearts, Abel, you've been around a long while, you've worked with a lot of fighters, you're in the middle of the same business that we're all in. Do you expect that call from the Mayweathers?
You know, Mayweather's a businessman. Mayweather knows that if he wants to get another one of those $40 million paydays plus, he's going to have somebody that the public, the viewing public and the buying public expects him to lose to.
Sure.
And there's nobody out there besides Golovkin that poses that kind of threat. I know that they're talking about Bernard Hopkins, but that's kind of inconceivable. He's a 175-pounder dropping down to 160. Mayweather doesn't want to go to 160, so we'd be willing to drop down to 154 to make that fight happen.
And what about if it ended up that the Carl Froch negotiations develop? Would you ask Carl Froch to drop down a few pounds, or would you just be comfortable sprinting up to 168?
You know, we have a small middleweight. Depending on, I'd be comfortable fighting at him at 68. But of course, I'm just the coach. Sure. Negotiations between promoters and the managers would have to go on, and I would expect anywhere from 66 to 68 would be somewhere we'd settle at.
Now, just quickly, and thanks for your time, Abel. What type of boy? And I'm going to say boy, what? Because he always looks like a boy. What type of boy is Golovkin?
You know, the smile and the happy face that you see in the interviews and in the ring after fights, that's who he is. He is a happy man. He says he has a wonderful life, so there's nothing to be upset about. He looks at this game as a sport and not something vindictive where he has to hurt somebody. He goes in there to win, but he prays that everybody comes out safe, and we view it as a sport.
Now, you've been involved with some fighters that are entertaining, let's say colourful, sometimes a bit unpredictable. How does Golovkin compare with them? Is he one of the more mature and also one of the hardest working guys you've had?
He is by far the best fighter I've ever worked with. Not only physically, punching power, technically, mentally. I think it's important that for his style of approaching an opponent, it's important that he is as patient and as at peace inside the ring as he is, because that makes his work so much easier.
It's fantastic to talk to you about a fighter as intelligent and as devastating as Gennady Golovkin. Abel, give my best to Gennady. I've met him a couple of times, and it's great to speak to you, and hopefully speak to you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you to all your listeners, and I sure will tell Gennady that you said hi.
Abel Sanchez, another guy who'll be on this sofa soon. So happy to go up and fight Carl Froch. Won't demand anything of Carl Froch other than he shows up in the other corner, and happy to drop down to 154 to fight Mayweather. Both of those things make sense to you, Barry boy?
Either one financially makes sense, doesn't it? Even though he's not a lean middleweight.
He's got a bit of flesh sort of thing.
But the thing that he can make like middleweight, with all the power he carries, you know, it's quite phenomenal. But he did say when he won the title that he could go up or down.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
And you tend to think that's just talk. No. But listen, if you're anywhere near Mayweather, every middleweight in the country, in the world, is training with a sweat gear on, trying to get down to light middleweight.
Including Bernard Hopkins, who says I'll lose £1 a month. £1 a month, I'll fight you in a year for 40 million. Now, I'm going to ask you this. I often ask boxers this, Chris and Andreas. Are you boxing fans?
Yeah,
oh, you are?
I'm not. I don't watch football. My main sport is boxing.
Say that. Are you talking? No, we watch football too.
He watches it. I don't watch it.
I watch football. I'm more of a football fan. He doesn't care, this one.
Do you watch the Great British Bake Off?
I do as well, yeah. No, I watch Come Home With Me.
Oh, you know what? Any second now, I'm just going to get up and walk out. No, it's been that sort of day. The wind has caused havoc, and you might say, Bunce, you don't know what havoc is. The cars crashed down and all sorts of stuff. You know, the Bake-Off, so we worked it out that they watch the Bake-Off sometimes, not a lot of football.
What happens is, my brother tells me a film to download or go out and buy legally, and I sort it out for my brother to watch, and I just keep up with the football myself. But we are boxing fans every Saturday night with our dad.
Are you Golovkin fans?
Oh, big time, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
fantastic fighter, devastating.
Not only is he devastating, I spoke to Matt Macklin after Matt Macklin fought him, and Macklin's been around both on the amateur and the pro circuit. He's been with some good pros as a pro, and he just said he just appears. He's like a ghost. You know, you go somewhere and he's there. Not only is he there, he's there in position.
I think his ring craft is so well adapted that he basically never threw a punch in the first couple of minutes, but yet he put your opponent on the back foot already without even throwing a punch. That takes a lot of skill.
That's part of that old. I know that he's not part of the Soviet system because he's not that old, but the guys that trained him were guys from that Soviet system. And if you look at those old Soviets from the 70s and 80s, a lot of it is footwork. You know, Costa Zoo, footwork, great footwork. You know, devastating punches. Even Sergei Kovalev, the guy that beat Nathan Cleverly, we're all raving about his hands. His feet were just brilliant. He was always...
Our old coach was Cuban, trained. He had 150 fights in Cuba, and his emphasis was footwork. So when you see us fighting as well, you're going to see what our footwork's like. It's a bit different. It's a lot of footwork.
Cubans, of course, they're the ones that, you know, at the World Championships, they just, you know, they defined it by their movement. You win fights with your feet.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Yeah. You do, you say footwork, and you say it's about positioning. For movers like me, it was all about dancing and moving. But for punchers, it's not just about the power, it's getting yourself in the position to throw that, making the angle, making the space for the punch. And that is all about your feet. And Golovkin, Golovkin's a master at it, it really is.
So, Andreas, 6 months, 12 months, where are you in 12 months' time in an ideal world?
12 months, if I can get the 5 fights this year, pushing to go for the British title. Since we've worked with Don, he said, let's get 4, 5, 6 more fights and then go for the British. So that's the plan.
When you say you work with Don, obviously you work with other good trainers over the years. I know you looked at going to Jesse Reed in America. You spent some time with Jesse. So you've been around, you know your stuff. What is it, if you could just put it in 30 seconds, that's different with the way Don does his business?
Don's very passionate and he's really really excited. And when you know when you're working with someone, you see their excitement and you do something, he's like, that's it, yes. And he dances a bit in the ring with the pads and everything. It's really...
Honestly, it's like you're in the ring with Ali, seriously. The way he moves with his body bag on and his pads.
He brings the best out of you.
Definitely.
And his belief is rubbing off on us and we're believing.
You know, that point there about the passion, that's a really good line, because if I asked 50 boxers about their 15 coaches, I doubt many of them would say passion. You're absolutely right. What about you? In an ideal world, Chris, we're looking for... It's not fantasy world, we're talking proper world, realistic.
I'm always realistic when it comes to boxing, because if you're unrealistic, you get found out quite quickly. And I believe that, you know, I should be a title holder as we speak, but for whatever reason I'm not. But within 5 fights, I'm looking to go all the way to become #1 in Britain and challenge whoever's holding the British title then. And I know I can beat the current British holder now. You know, if he's still got it, he's still got it, but we'll see what happens, but, you know.
And is your position, the way it works, can you train full-time? You don't have to go out and do a 40 hours a week
I don't
job?
do 40 hours, but I'm a youth worker. I'm a mentor with expelled kids. So I get the school holidays, I get 13 weeks off a year, I finish by 3 o'clock every day, so it's not too strenuous, but I'm running out of time.
And Andreas, are they those kids that have been excluded from schools in North West London? So
like in the borough of Enfield.
So they're in your some sort of unit or something?
It's a unit, It's called a pupil referral unit.
Do you ever bring any of them to the gym? Or
my dad's got the gym in Edmonton and we do a lot of work with my dad's gym. And it does change their life, and they're now 18, 19, 20, because I've been doing this for 6 years. A lot of them still go there, and it's been a positive thing for them. So I can see what boxing does for people, because it done it for me. It changed my life for the positive. So
you know what? That's a film for Barry Jones to go and do. That is.
I've done the same sort of job in South West London.
No, it's rewarding, but boxing as well. Really, it's an amazing sport.
It is amazing. Barry Jones, thank you very much. Andreas, thank you very much. Chris, thank you very much. Kostakis, who's in the other room, thank you very much. He's watching very closely. Well, it's been a fairly lively show, I think you'd agree. We've had a few laughs. Fantastic to hear from Abel, Sanchez and Tyrell Biggs, and also Dr. Wu. Remember, this weekend you can watch some great fights if you go to the Facebook on Boxnation. Meanwhile, on Thursday night, it's going to be this man, Alex Steedman.
Plenty to talk about as ever. These last 2 performances have just been devastating.
His footwork was good, his right hand was good.
The Klitschko's are technically brilliant.
These guys have been in charge for a long time.
and it's up to someone else to come and sort them out.
For me, he's the best since Ray Leonard.
He just simply couldn't land a glove on him.
He's a decent European challenger.
He was the guy who possibly showed that Ali wasn't the greatest.
He was aggressive. He would attack you.
When he gets in the ring, you can't help but fall in love with him.